Welcome to part 3. This is the section on safer recruitment. The whole of part 3 has been substantially restructured, but the responsibilities upon you from a legal perspective have not changed. There are some additional information that we need to be aware of. So paragraph 213, we've got information about the use of birth certificates. So where a individual's identity, as you are aware, needs to be verified. It's important that you are aware of individuals who may have changed their name, and so the guidance informs us that best practice would be to refer back to the candidate's birth certificate. So that's a new addition in paragraph 213. Paragraph 229 of keeping children safe, you're all aware of the need to carry out children's barred list checks. We've got some additional information and explanation about when these checks need to be carried out. So the first of these is when we are appointing new staff who you are aware are going to engage in regulated activity, but you do not have access to an enhanced disclosure, then that would be one of the circumstances in which you must carry out a separate barred list check. And the second of these is where an individual has worked in a school, they've had regular contact with young people, but that post did not end more than 3 months prior to their appointment with your organisation. So these are the two occasions in which you must carry out the children's barred list check. You should also note that there is further clarification on section 128 checks. You will all know, or those of you that are part of recruitment procedures in your school setting, that a section 128 direction prohibits or restricts an individual from participating in the management of an independent school. And so such a person would be unable to take up a management position in our school settings, be a trustee, a governor or member of the proprietor body of an independent school. So it's important that you are aware of those particular individuals when they are put in place, and be a governor of an independent school that retains or has been delegated any management responsibilities. There has been further information about overseas checks and clarification about those checks. The schools that I go into often are unclear about when overseas checks should take place. The guidance doesn't give you any particular information in this regard, but it's really important to know that when we reach the age of 18, we become responsible for our actions. And if a person has lived or worked for 3 months or more overseas, then it is highly recommended that you carry out overseas checks on an individual who has been overseas for that period of time. And the guidance gives you information about how those checks can be done, but it also gives you information on other information that you can get hold of. So you will find, for example, that there are some countries that are not listed in the overseas guidance for schools. So a country such as Yemen, and in which case then there are a number of things that you can do to check that the person that you are employing is suitable to work in your school setting, and importantly, to work with children. And that could be through contacting, first of all, the embassy. That's something that's been recommended by Ofsted inspectors in the past. It can also mean that you're able to gain information from a professional organisation when that person has worked overseas. So are you able to demonstrate that during the time that they were abroad, they were not involved in activities which could be potentially harmful to children? And so they were in an institute of education, so they were at a university, or they were employed by an organisation, and therefore they were working full time during that period of time that they were out there. There are different ways in which you are able to demonstrate that that person is suitable to work with children. But certainly I would advise all schools to take a criminal records checks for overseas applicants. The Home Office guidance is very clear about what you are required to do and who you are required to contact. And it's not actually you that would need to contact particular organisations. It would be the candidate. They would need to write to the listed address in the guidance from Home Office, and to seek a letter which stipulates that that person is able to work with children. So it's really important that you are clear about your overseas checks procedures, that you are recording them on your SCR and in the staff file, that you are able to demonstrate that you have done as much as possible to ensure that person is suitable to work with children. And whilst you are waiting information, if that person is working with you, have you carried out a risk assessment? And is that risk assessment available for inspectors to view? So really important, quite a number of our schools have actually not met the standards relating to recruitment here. So again, just review your staff files and ensure that you've done all that's needed to ensure that staff are suitable to work with children. Okay. So that's the end of part 3. There are not many changes here, but there are some important clarifications that you need to make sure that you are aware of. And inshallah, we will be back for part 4 very soon. Assalamu alaikum.